Evening, everyone. Welcome to the final webinar in this series of three. And this is the one that, interesting, has the most people registered, and we'll see how many people come on. I think there'll be quite a few. Hi, Dewey. Hi, Ben. So a little recap, really. We've done three webinars. The first one was a deep coaching experience, which in essence was Chris coaching one of our mastermind members, Deb, and then I unpacked it, and then we had a few other just sort of generic coaching questions that we answered. You can get a replay of that. We'll send you all the links out at the end. Last week was coaching supervision. So that was really, as coaches, what questions do we want to ask about interactions with our clients, how to be maybe more effective with our coaching, and Chris and I offered our input on that. This week is kind of the meat on the bones, which is Chris and I are going to share as much as we possibly can in the next hour and a half in terms of what lessons have we learned, or what principles do we think are key to creating a £100,000 a year plus coaching business. Now, why do we pick that number? It's because it seems like everyone talks about it in the coaching industry. Six-figure businesses, and sometimes it's dollars. I'm not very excited about six-figure dollars, but it's a good start. And sharing a lot about what we've learned in that area. Chris has very kindly kind of jotted down 7 key principles that he thought were important. So we're going to go through those on this webinar. It's going to be very interactive. If you've got questions and things, obviously we'll answer as many of those as we go along, or maybe we'll leave some of them to the end if they're kind of, the other areas we want to cover. So it's 7 principles we're going to cover. It's definitely not an exclusive list. It's a good start. And I guess I want to, before we start, kind of share a little bit about my own experience of creating a coaching business, and I'm sure Chris will do the same. We're going to have a bit of fun with it because Chris has written down 7 things, and we're going to take it in turns. And one of us will go first and do the bulk of it, and the other person will chip in as we go along. So my outcome is to try and pick with the ones that I think are Chris's favourites, just to mess him about. Because one of the most important things we do in the coaching business is have a lot of fun. So my background many years ago, was in a fortunate position, became an investment banker, was financially free at 31. Going through a divorce will certainly impact on those numbers, which I did at the same time. Became a business consultant, and then 2006 went to my first Robbins event, and after that I wanted to do coaching. So I basically did it as a hobby business from that point on. Doing the odd session here and there. I think I started off charging about 30 or 40 quid an hour, something like that, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but you got to start somewhere, right? And it was really 4 years ago that I made the decision that I was going to become a full-time coach. So not that long ago. Was mentored by a good friend of mine, David Taylor, who'd gone on a similar journey about 6 months before I had. I read The Prosperous Coach by Lipton and Chandler, which a lot of people know about. If you haven't read it, I thoroughly recommend it. We'll type that in the chat in a minute. It's a great book in terms of core principles. We have a great belief that you do not need to build a coaching business through opt-in pages, lead generators, online funnels and stuff like that. You can. It's not the way that we did it. We built our practices based on The Prosperous Coach, which Chris just typed up. I didn't really create any clients, I think, for about 4 or 5 months. And that, I don't think, is not untypical. Some people go longer. Some are better than I was and go shorter. And I think really where I basically started to look for clues. I hate being rubbish at something. And I actually saw Rich Lipton speak live. That helped me to get some insights in terms of stuff that maybe wasn't in The Prosperous Coach. I think it probably took me 18 months to 2 years to really start to work it out and start to create some decent income from coaching. And then the last 2 years working probably more intensively between me and Chris, and we'll talk about why we think that works in a minute. Started then create some significant income and refining the approach. It's kind of really, I guess, putting the detail onto what we found in The Prosperous Coach and finding stuff that practically works that maybe isn't outlined in that. So that's really what we're going to try and do tonight, is try and either emphasize stuff that we found in that book, but also add to more things. I don't mind sharing numbers because I'm happy to do that. A couple of months ago, Chris and I did what's called the 90-day money game, where we set targets for generating coaching revenue, and also the amount of proposals we want to make. Now, being six-figure coaches, you'd think it'd be region of 10 grand a month plus. So in 90 days, that'd be 30 grand plus. Chris decided that he'd go for 90 grand, which I thought was ambitious, and told him that.
I think the words were effing crazy. I think Rich.
Effing crazy is exactly right. I've just noticed actually almost as effing crazy as my shirt. I've got a really nice interference pattern going on there, which would be 270 grand of proposals, which I thought was pretty bold. But I decided to play the same game as him. Chris, I'll let Chris share his numbers. I was behind Chris in month one, but as of not quite 2 months into the thing, I've actually generated revenue of well over £100,000 in 2 months. That is not money in the bank. I'll make that very clear, because sometimes people say yes and you put them on long-term agreements and they drop out. But that's what's possible when you stay in the game and play this game. And that's all, I think, as you'll see, that we're big believers in serving clients and doing the right thing and doing it the right way. And there's nothing scammy, salesy, anything like that at all. It's genuinely service-based selling. So that's kind of my bit. Chris, do you want to do a quick intro from your side?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rich. So my background is a little different to Richard's. My background is academia, so followed the academic path for reasons I won't go into now, and all the way to PhD level. So I did a PhD in engineering in computational mechanics. Which at this time of night should send everybody to sleep on the call. I can just pull the thesis out behind me as I read into you. So that was pretty challenging. I don't know what's more challenging, doing that or running a coaching business. I'd probably say they're on par, I think. So that was challenging. So I finished that, and then I promptly left the university environment. And when I was finishing the PhD, I got involved with coaching. Is that Peter's son? Hi, Peter's son. So I got involved with coaching and used it primarily to help myself through the finishing stages of that PhD. And then I trained as a coach and NLP practitioner, and I started doing training as a mindfulness trainer as well, because I used that to get me through those final stages. And then I left. So I left, set up as a coach, and didn't really have a clue what I was doing. And my bank balance reflected that. So ad hoc sessions with clients, non-commitment, not really using contract or not using contracts, very much outside-in coaching. So making a lot of the classic mistakes that Rich and I see a lot of new coaches making these days. That was pre-Prosperous Coach. Rich mentioned Prosperous Coach by Rich Litfin. That book wasn't out then. So I think I started a little bit less, and Rich started about 20 quid an hour level and progressed from there. But the progress wasn't fast. So I spent a couple of years looking after my daughter. And then similar to Rich, for myself, about 3.5 to 4 years ago, I decided to make a commitment to go at it properly, full time. Well, not full time, but seriously as a profession. And well, it's been quite a journey. And Rich shared a few of his figures. Over the last year, I crossed into figures, which for some reason seems to be a landmark thing. A lot of people talk about 6 figures. If you stay around long enough on Facebook, you get 7-figure out of it these days, which is possible, but we're not there yet. And the last month for myself was £49,600 month, of which 40,000 came in as cash in that month. So that's my best month so far, but obviously 10 grand plus months are quite common now. So yeah, that's where we're at. So the intent tonight is we've sort of distilled 7 key ingredients that we believe has been important in our journey over the last few years. And we'd love to talk a little bit about those. We'll take it in turns, as Rich said, and then we'll open to questions. Yeah, probably best to do it that way rather than, well, maybe if there's if there's burning questions we go along, we could take that as well. Obviously, we'll keep to the hour and a half.
So I just had one question come in already, Chris. So I just wanted to clarify that because I used an expression which was service-based selling. So let me explain what I mean by that. It's a kind of a core principle of the prosperous coach, which is, rather than me saying I've got this kind of shiny coaching package, do you want it? It's you sell coaching through giving someone an experience of coaching, like a proper experience of it, not just, I'm not a big fan of taster sessions. They can be used as an introduction to a longer discussion. We can talk about that later. But in essence, it's, for someone to understand what coaching with you is like, is you give them the experience of coaching. And then you can see, is this a good client for me? And also the client can see, is this a good coach for me? And there's like an understanding both ways. And then we'll talk about this later on, but it is that genuine, I'll only offer the coaching experience, a longer term paid experience, to someone when it's right. And it's genuinely, do I believe it's the right thing for this client? And only then would I offer that to them. And so it is very much a consideration of what is best what do I believe is best for the prospective client, and then I will either offer my coaching or not. So it's kind of like, if you want to make a contrast, if you think of a second-hand car salesman or a double glazing salesman that want to push things onto people, it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum to that. So that's kind of a bit of an explanation about what I mean by service-based selling. Chris, given you came up with a 7, am I going to give you the honour of picking one and going first?
Yeah.
That means you get to do 4 and only get to do 3, so I'm going to have to do a little longer waffle at some point, aren't I?
I think you've done that, Rich.
One of the most important things to create a lot of coaching income is to have respect for your fellow coach and mentor, and we're still working on that.
I think he shows promise. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. So the 7 ingredients that we've got, and I'm sure we will add more to these in the Q&A, as at the end, but we'll roll with these initially. So the first one I've jotted down, because I was reflecting over the time, especially the last 3.5 years. And the first one I got down is come from a place of non-neediness. Come from a place of non-neediness. That's the first one. So I'll say a few words about what I mean by that. It has been said several times that even Rich Litfin has said this: if you need a client as a coach, then you need to get a job. Because if you come in from a place of needing that client's money, needing the work, then you fall into the trap of pleasing rather than serving. You're trying to please the client so that they're happy and that they go and say yes to working with you. And then if you're on a monthly basis of payment, and maybe we'll touch on the difference between monthly and upfront in a second, but if you're on a monthly payment basis, then that continues right through the relationship. You can continue to try and please the client so that they're pleased with sessions, so that they continue to pay you, and so on. And it's very difficult to coach strongly, because the reason people pay me large fees is because often I'm the only person in their life that's actually going to call out, what's going on for them. I call it what I see. And that's edgy. That can be really edgy at times. But that's why they pay the fees, because often they haven't got that person in their life. So if you are coming from a place of neediness, and a potential client can smell that from a mile away, and that isn't great. That isn't great. So for myself, I had to, eat a bit of humble pie, so to speak, and I had to recognize that about 3.5 years ago, I wasn't in a great financial position. So I decided I didn't actually have to for finances. My wife works full time, so we're able to meet the needs. But I decided, for my own reasons, and also to give me more structure in my week as well, to go and take a part-time job in lecturing. So that's my background. My PhD in engineering allowed me to do that, and that was the best thing I actually did. because it meant that I had some income. It meant that I had some real increase in self-worth there. I was being paid for work. It wasn't research, it was lecturing, so it was very much, speaking from stage, just different content. And also mixing with, reasonably good peer group as well, especially the lecturers. And, a couple of those have come on courses with me, mindfulness courses with me over the last few years. And in fact, I don't publicize this, but, this is an open forum. I still have that work. But last month, I earned over twice what I earn in a year from the lecturing work. So I don't think, I'm a man of my word, so I'll keep my contract for this academic year, but I doubt very much that I'll be continuing next year. I'd really have to justify that. I don't think I can at the moment. So so that's probably enough for me at the moment, Rich. So coming from a place of non-neediness is the first. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we have an expression in the coaching circles, I think it might have been generated by Rich Litvin, which is needy is creepy. And so, do you know what? If coaching, coaching in its purest form is genuine service. And if you're engaging with a client, don't get me wrong, I have initial conversations with clients, or what we call creation conversations, where, if it goes well, I may well propose at the end of that conversation. I have dialogue in my head going, I wonder if this person's got money to pay, or I wonder what it'd be like working with them on an ongoing basis, or it'd be nice if they did say yes. All these things come up. And I call it out now. I will call it out from there. If I feel like I want to work with someone, I'll actually tell them, look, my outcome today is for us to have an interaction, for you to experience my coaching, for me to experience what you're like as a client, and then for us together to come to a decision as to what's best for you. And if I feel that I want to work with someone, I'm going to call that out and tell them. Now, it's much easier for me to do that if I don't need them as a client. Because, if I genuinely want to serve someone, I really have to be indifferent to them saying yes or no. From a money point of view, I can want to work with them from a client point of view, and we'll talk about that a bit later in terms of what's an ideal client. But if you're showing up in that energy of, I really, really, really need this person to say yes, not only are you not serving that person properly, but that energy comes across for sure. And tell a bit about my background. I'm never going to plead poverty. From a relatively young age, I've had a lot of access to assets, but that doesn't necessarily mean, being financially free at 31, you don't always have cash flow available. And I didn't expect the start of my coaching journey not to create a client for 4 or 5 months. So cash flow started to get tight, and I recognised that there was neediness coming in. And not unlike Chris, I did some consultancy work, did some speaking work, just to have something else coming in. But in essence, what I had done before that was I cut off consultancy and jumped straight into coaching. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend that leap to anyone. I think sort of building up your coaching business, tapering it off other things that you're doing, or maybe even having other things. I still have other sources of income, particularly speaking, some trading and investing. It's useful to have something else, just so that you can go on a call and just see genuinely, is this a great fit both ways, and then your energy will be so much better. So if you are in a position where you are not creating a lot of money from coaching and you really need the money, I would definitely consider spending at least some of your time earning income elsewhere as well. So that's about that. So let me just pick up a comment from Peter saying, sorry, the account in me is coming out. I think fees should be measured in the month that coaching is delivered. For example, if you receive 20,000 for 2 years coaching, you should receive 10 grand each of 2 years sort of when it's invoiced and paid. Yeah. So let's talk about fees very quickly, just from that perspective. Is one of the things that I made a mistake with was I was doing more the prosperous coach approach, which was getting upfront fees for coaching wherever possible. The problem with that is you can suddenly have very long and barren months because you're waiting for this upfront to come in. And when you do get an upfront in, you'll feel like you're like a god. And what I found was that I would get very, very lumpy income in a month. And then my brain would go, great, I've done it. and then I'd switch off, and actually that time when I had the most momentum, I would actually switch off. So then I'd end up having these highly variable months. And you're right, Peter, really, if you get an upfront fee in, what you should do is probably have a separate account, which is what I do, put it into a separate account, and then push the money into my main account on a monthly basis. And also there will be clients that will pay on a monthly basis as well. Very quickly on that front, it's a difference in energy. If someone pays you up front, they're all in, ready to go. We don't need to worry about find the money each month or have the invoice. What do you do if a session's coming up and they haven't paid, all these sorts of things. But some people don't have the money to pay up front. Some people don't want to pay up front. A lot of business owners and businesses expect to pay monthly. And just be aware of the differences. But yeah, you don't just living off upfronts all the time and just taking that into account while it feels great. It's not a good way to build a business, because actually the best way of measuring your progress with a coaching business is to start to rack up what are those monthly equivalents that I've got coming in, and you can see genuine progress and stacking of, can I pay my food each month? Can I pay all my bills each month? Have I got excess money each month? So that racking up of coaching income is useful. Yeah, accruals basis. Thanks, Peter. Yeah. Thanks, mate. Thanks, Rag. Yeah. Right. Chris, have you got anything to add on that? I've got another separate question, which I probably will bring it up in a minute, and we'll sort of throw a few things in between the 7. But was there any thoughts you had on the rest of that?
Yeah, just for the sake of transparency, to respond to Peter. Yeah, I completely agree there, Peter. So the figure I mentioned for the benefit of the people on the webinar, that was made up of one new coaching apprentice. So that was a year's worth of work. Another coaching contract of lesser value, and then one piece of new corporate mindfulness training work. So that figure that I gave last month of 49 grand was made up of 3 pieces of work. And the important thing to mention there is that, in no way have I kind of sold my hours for the year there at all. Like the coaching apprenticeship is, that's about a 5-hour a month commitment. So that's important. Yeah. So that's that is a sustainable figure to carry through. Actually, I think you can go up to the 300, 400, 500,000 mark on one-to-one high-level clients. You can go higher, of course, as Steve Hardison has shown. But it is important, especially when you're selling your time for money, to recognize that if you don't increase your hourly fee, then you are going to run out of hours. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. I've had a question come in, which was sent to me privately, which is, in order to achieve 100 grand in 2 months, how much do you charge for coaching sessions? So maybe this is like a 1A in our list of things. So one of the things that I did was I created a clear vision of what I wanted to create in my coaching business and how much time I wanted to spend on it. So I decided I wanted to do no more than 4 hours a day coaching. I find I get pretty tired doing more than that. And that I would generally work with my clients on a fortnightly basis every 2 weeks. So that works out around about, depending on how long they're working with me, I basically would look at sort of working for the client for 2 hours every 2 weeks. That would work out at about 10 sessions a week, or 20 clients I'd have in total. So basically, in essence, I've got 20 clients that did do a year-long contract with me, and they were paying me 5 grand for the year. That would be 100 grand a year business. And that's actually how I really started to make decent money. Was I got a lot of clarity on what my ideal would look like. And then the reality is, some clients want to work with you more frequently than that, sometimes less frequently than that. To answer the question directly, that 100 grand, so a big jump in Chris and I's numbers were from providing mentoring. So we call them coaching apprentices, so one-to-one. And you can charge tens of thousands of pounds for the right client for that. And if you work it out on a per hour basis, like I'd say my kind of very, very long-term generic coaching is anywhere from, I don't know, it's probably 250 up to 350, 400 an hour if you work it out. And then my mentoring fees are about 33% or a third higher than that. So, yeah, very, very long-term mentoring. You're probably looking at, I don't know, 300, 350 quid an hour, that sort of level. I think any experienced coach can easily charge £100 an hour plus. And quite honestly, it's a number you pick. There are coaches more experienced than me that charge less. There are coaches less experienced than me that charge more. There are coaches that are not as good as me that charge more. There are coaches that are better than me that charge less. It's just a number. It's just a number. I could turn around and just charge whatever I wanted to. You know, if someone will pay it, they'll pay it. So it's a great question, is where did that come from? So I don't think Chris or I would ever do solely coach mentoring, because it's kind of a little bit like pyramid selling in essence. But you know, it's not, because it's providing a real service around how do you get there to that magic number. But also we like coaching, you know, business coaches and personal coaches. We like the variety. So I think we will move more towards coach mentoring, but I don't think that will ever be the only thing that we do. Sorry, Chris, I'm kind of wittering on. I'm aware that you did really well keeping that answer short, and I've now just bled loads of time away.
We'll move on to question 2, Rich.
Yeah, let's do that. So question 2 is about, Peter, thanks for the accountancy view on that. You smack on right with that. Question 2, Chris basically sent me a note about peer group. So the average of 5 people you surround yourself with. There's a few things that come up to mind here, which is, you know what, your peer group as a coach. So how you show up as a coach. Think about who you're hanging out with and what that means for your identity. We had a discussion in our mastermind group yesterday, which is, you know, one of the key things that I found was the very, very best version of me. You know what, I can create the right clients at ease and flow, because I'm showing up as the best version of Rich Waterman. I've got some useful reference points for that, because in the Robbins environment, you know, that is a strong anchor point for me to show up that way. I also think part of that peer group is having someone else to bounce stuff off. You know what, building a coaching business is a lonely journey. It really is. When I was kind of doing it by myself 4 years ago, I really started to question and doubt myself. And that was someone that was, you know, at the time I was a, you know, Tony Robbins trainer. I had all these different things going on. I created all these successful businesses. And even then I started to doubt myself. And I think the big shift for me and Chris was really about two and a bit years ago. We made the commitment to speak to each other every week, bar Chris going off on his extended holidays in the summer. We go at it normally about an hour or so each every single week, and we are bouncing stuff off each other all the time. And early days, it often was one of us picking the other one off the floor a little bit, and we found that that energy and also our income was quite variable. And now it really is. There's a lot of fun around it, and a lot of bouncing stuff around creation. And we there's a friendly competitiveness there, and we make no bones about it. It's very, very useful to have that sparring partner. It also, do you know what, when you've got reference points of not only other coaches that are earning great money, but also people in your network that have created wealth, it's useful in terms of, I'll get some regards. I was fortunate because as an investment banker, £100,000 a year is not a number that phases me at all. But do you know what? It definitely was a mental barrier for me for a good couple of years, because I was like, okay, I should be able to create this. And the way that I found to do that is to surround myself with people that I can have quality conversations with. So that it's kind of an energy thing, but it's also an identity thing. So, Chris, I'll hand it over to you for your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a massive one. It's I guess the way I look at it, you can almost think of it in a cellular level. Cells regenerate every moment of every day in your body, and the environment in which they regenerate in differentiates between a good quality cell or one that develops poorly. So the environment and the toxicity or the nutritiousness, if that's a word, of the environment is so important. And that's really peer group. You are the average, as you said, of the 5 people you surround yourself with. That's true for for wealth, it's true for health, it's true for the quality of your relationships. It's true for lots of aspects of your life. And that can be, if you're used to a certain peer group, then sometimes you kind of got to upgrade your peer group, and that can be a little bit of a challenging process. You say goodbye to people who you spend time with, and you say hello to new people. But that's just the way it is, really. The key thing for me was when I realized that my clients were my peer group. And that's been a big shift, because both myself and Rich, we now, it sounds a little what's the word, you see the phrase, I even got on my own bio that I work with clients by invite only. But that's true, because even if somebody approaches me through my website, as I've had one today, I will invite that person to a short telephone conversation of 15, 20 minutes. But I will then, based on the conversation, decide whether to invite them to an initial coaching conversation. And often I don't. In fact, more often than not, I actually don't invite that person. So the reason for that is not because I don't want to serve people. I would often recommend somebody else that person could work with, or a book if it's more appropriate recommendation. It's just that I know from experience that it's really, really important I take on and work with people who are a real click and a good fit for me, and really are going to be a really important part of my peer group. So it's important, who you socialize with, who you date, who you're married to. That could open a can of worms, but I see it so often, when I'm coaching clients, that the influence of a partner, both positive and negative. I've seen both. And it's also as well important in respect to the training you do, what training you sign up for. So, I went on Rich Litvin's intensive in London recently. That was a fantastic peer group. Everybody invested best part of £1,500 to be in that room. So they were committed to a significant degree to their coaching journey, and it showed. It showed in the quality of questions, showed in the quality of conversation over the breaks, and so on. So. Those are my thoughts on peer group. There was something, but I've forgotten. I'll move on. We'll come back.
I thought you were going to sing "Let It Go" by Frozen, then, Chris. Just let it go.
Just let it go. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, someone mentioned about Facebook. I was just looking about Facebook. It's like, do you know what? With some of the downtime that I had in coaching early on, it's like, Facebook is such a black hole, and rabbit hole or black hole, both is true.
Oh, I remembered.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hold it now, mate. I'm talking.
Oh shit.
And then it's you have a lot of people in your Facebook, but be very careful who you're following. I unfollow a lot of people. Because they're potential clients. Although I wouldn't say Facebook is amazing for creating clients, but you can do it. I definitely have done in the past. But be very, very careful who your influences are, whether that be Facebook, news, so on and so forth. It's for me, it's quality time with quality people that will energize you around your coaching business. Go on then, Chris. What was it? Was it worth the wait?
Yes. Well, it's relevant to TSBOC, TSBOC, the secret business of coaching. The reason why we're here, really. That's why Rich and I created that, because we wanted a peer group as well.
Yeah. Thanks, mate. I'm glad you came back with that one. Right. Number 3 is Chris Joseph time.
Right. So number 3 is get regular one-to-one coaching yourself. And this is definitely not a sales pitch, because my practice is full. I've stopped taking people at the moment. it's there on the list, and because these aren't in any particular order either. I would actually put this one as very high up on the list. But the reason I put this on the list is because of my experience of receiving regular coaching with Rich. So we're fortunate that we have a great relationship, and we're fortunate that we are able to actually coach each other, and it works. That doesn't always happen when you've got two coaches who want to work together, but it does for us. So what it's meant is that for the last 3 years probably, we've spoken pretty much weekly, and we've had contact almost daily via text exchange. And the truth is, if you've got two people heading in the same or very similar directions, with very similar philosophies about how to create a coaching business based on service-led, as Rich talked about earlier, and you have that level of contact, it's just very, very powerful. Coaching in its best form shines a mirror up to yourself, and we've both done it to ourselves. We won't go into details now of conversations, but there's been laughter, there's been tears, there's been gain, and there's been loss. But one-to-one coaching, if you're a coach and you don't have a coach, then I would recommend that you get one. Prosperous Coach book talks about the example of a doctor who won't go and see a doctor. It's a reasonable parallel. But the truth is, if you really go in to up your game, then getting a high quality coach is really important. I'm still looking for one.
Where's the mute button?
Sorry. Over to you, coach.
Speechless. For once, I'm speechless. Just deeply hurt. I'm going to need some coaching from a proper coach so I can get over it. Alrighty. I wouldn't say recommend. I'd say, you know what? If you're a coach, you must have a coach, because otherwise you're selling something that you don't believe in. Well, I'm too good for it. I remember when I first started in a Robbins environment, I thought, I'll get coaching on a regular basis. Then when I get good at this mindset stuff, I won't need a coach so much. And quite the opposite. The faster I'm going, the more I want to have someone to bounce ideas off. So, do you know what? If you haven't got the money, then trade for it. Trade your time for it, or trade something for it. You got to get a coach, or even if it's part of a group coaching environment, that works as well. Joe, you ask that question. Sometimes actually, particularly your mindset, or maybe if you've got a common goal, that actually being part of a group could be more useful sometimes than one-to-one. But do you know what? I do think if you're in a group, you probably do need some one-to-one as well. What's one of the things we learned running our mastermind this year was we looked back on it and we went, what's the one thing we changed? And we said we'd give people one-to-one time, and that's kind of come into it. We've introduced it as a reward system for our coaches now. I think with a coaching business, if I'm being dead straight, if you really want to get results, you probably want a mentor as well, because the Prosperous Coach is a fantastic book in terms of principles. I think it's a game changer in terms of that it's possible to create coaching through service, create a coaching business through coaching, but it's by far and away not the be all and end all, because it doesn't really have a lot of detail in it. It has a fair amount, but I think not enough. It's actually what Chris and I actually midway writing a book on the kind of what's beyond the Prosperous Coach. You got to have one. You know what? It's such an emotional journey becoming a professional coach. You have ups and downs and sideways, and everything goes on. And without that level of support, I'd say it's nigh on impossible. And that's someone speaking. I kind of pride myself on emotional mastery, having done Robbins for the best part of 12 years. But it's a hell of a journey, I tell you. It's hard. It's the hardest business I've ever created. It's also the most rewarding one. It's hard, and I hated being rubbish at it. And that's eventually really what pushed me through all these challenges that I put in my own way. So, get get a coach, get a mentor, find a way, trade, beg, borrow, and steal. I don't have a lot of a belief in kind of pay as you go type coaching either. I have done it. I've offered it. I don't think it's a great thing to do as a coach if you can avoid it. Sometimes you might make a decision to do that, but you know what? Someone's got to be invested. So yeah, I think that's me done on that one, Chris.
Yeah, just a final thing is a little analogy that I've used recently. I think a coaching session, it's like you're with the coach, you're setting your laser line, you know, for the future, for the distant future, but certainly for the immediate future. And then between that session and the next session, in many ways, okay, you obviously, if you've got a good coach, you'll have the backup of unlimited support between. But for a large part of the time, you know, you're self-coaching yourself according to that laser line that you've set up in that previous session. So whatever actions you follow and so on. And then the next session is really twofold. It's to check how that's gone, but also to just reevaluate the direction of that laser line. And that's important. That's very important. That's the benefit of ongoing regular coaching, is that you get a check-in with the direction of that laser line. Sometimes it shifts a degree, sometimes it shifts, 90 degrees, rarely, but it can happen like that. So it's that constant process of setting your intention, checking against it time and time again.
Oh, I'm mute again. I had a question about what's wrong with pay-as-you-go coaching. So very, very quickly, if you're paying as you go, like session by session, you're not investing in the longer game. You're basically looking for, am I getting a result in this session? You may or may not do the next one. And generally when things get difficult, you'll drop out. And that's actually when you need to keep going. It's also why paying up front for coaching is quite useful, because you're invested in the game. And even when it's getting bloody difficult, you're going to stay in it. Whereas, if you're paying monthly fees, even though they are installments of a bigger fee and you're committed to the total fee, people will drop away when it gets difficult. Also, as a coach, if you're trying to build a practice based off the odd session here and there and people paying when they fancy it, that's a horrendous way to have a coaching practice, because you're highly unpredictable about how much time availability you've got, highly unpredictable as to whether someone's going to continue. You're constantly reselling coaching all the time. It's exhausting. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Minimum time I'd work with someone is 3 months. More typically it's 6 or 12 months. In some cases now, excuse me, I'm working with people for 2 years. I'm actually doing 2-year agreements from some of my apprentices. Wow, Rags just typed in that there's actually a site where coaches charge per minute. Wow. I mean, if you want to do some filler, if you want to fill in gaps that you've got, fair enough. But like, you want to build a practice that way, wow, yeah. Okay, next one. Chris has typed a note about the importance of meeting people in the flesh. So I'm actually going to expand this out a little bit and talk about creating leads and connections. It's the, in my opinion, it's the hardest piece of creating a professional coaching practice, which is, how do I create really, really high quality connections that may or may not go on to become a coaching client? You may think that actually it's the proposal or the selling of the coaching that's the hardest bit. It isn't, once you have a nice recipe that works for you and is very authentic and open. So let me talk about creating quality connections. So one of the things that we came up with, one of the great things about running mastermind groups, is we sort of come up with new concepts to explain how we've done it. And I came up with a concept which is a little bit like kind of health and safety assessments. Health and safety is the severity of the risk times the likelihood of that risk happening. And I think there's the same thing true of creating quality connection. So it's the quality of connection with you. So on top of that would be a live experience of you. And maybe the one of the lowest forms of connection with you might be, I don't know, a motivational quote you posted on Facebook. So it's just a quote and it's not even attributable to you. So that's like quality of connection with you. And then the other side of things is the quality of person, or the quality of niche or group of people that you're communicating that to. So I'll give you an example of that. One of my favorite things to do is public speaking. I happen to be quite good at it. I've done it a lot of years. I'm getting better at it. So by speaking in public, that's a very effective way of me communicating kind of the essence of me, my energy, what I'm about, so on and so forth. And in an ideal world, I'd be delivering a speech relevant to mindset or coaching to a group of, in my case, it might be coaches, because I work with coaches, or it might be highly motivated, successful business owners, entrepreneurs, that type of level, or maybe some executives. So that would likely create some very, very high quality connections / leads for me. So I'm always thinking about, where do I spend my time creating these connections? So some people don't like public speaking. So that the other thing might be, maybe you like going to high quality networking events, so people get a live experience of you. You can have live conversations. Being interviewed by someone else is a very, very good way of getting a high experience of you. And it was also a bit less kind of pushy, because someone's talking to you. Just having live conversations is very, very powerful. It's really what I think why Chris wrote that down, because ultimately it's about human connection. Why does someone choose to coach with you? It's because they know, like, and trust you. They've got a very, very deep experience of you and what the interaction could be like. So if you go backwards then to say, I'm going to post a motivational quote on Facebook, there's nothing wrong with that, because it does raise your awareness. You know, you're on people's radar, but you know what? They're not going to get a deep experience of you if that's all that you do. You might be very, very good at blogging. So some really high quality bloggers would create an experience of themselves through blogging, but most people won't. Most people actually, the written word on the page is relatively flat. A level up from that might be audio, because people can hear your voice and hear you express things. A level up from that might be recorded video. A level up from that might be live video, Facebook Lives. We've got Raghav on here, who's an expert at those. Does great Facebook Lives on a regular basis. Live webinars, live Zooms. I think then an actual live experience of you is very, very powerful. And the way that Chris and I talk about it is going to your circle of trust. Too many coaches look outside for where their next client is. And actually, most of your clients are either going to be relatively close friends or colleagues, or maybe more likely their friends. So look within, look close. It's also why having a really good high quality peer group close to you is important. That you may have some really close friends that you know you wouldn't feel comfortable coaching them, but if you gave them a coaching experience and then said, you know what, I've got 10 slots this month where I'm going to invest my time in coaching people. Do you have any friends that you think would really benefit from having a conversation like that with me? They feel more comfortable giving their friends the opportunity to work with you, because they've just had a session with you and they think it's amazing. It's very different from, oh, I'm now a coach. Do you think you could refer me to people because it would really help me out? It's actually more your friend thinking, you know what, that Chris Joseph is an unbelievable coach, gave me such a great session. I would literally want all my friends to have a session with him. It's a very, very different angle. So that's kind of my bit, I think, Chris, on that piece. I know we've talked extensively about that. It's the hardest bit of coaching, is creating these quality connections, and it's as it builds, as your practice snowballs, you're going to get a lot more renewals, a lot more referrals. It will naturally. You know, I'm maybe not the best person to talk about this anymore, because I don't need to do a lot to get what I call passive referrals, just people just being interested in working with me. But I know it wasn't always that way. Right, I'm going to shut up now.
So there's a couple of extra bits I'll add to that. The quality of leads, or put it a different way, again, it's linked to peer group. It's the quality of, not the quality of people you're around, because that doesn't sound right, but it's the quality of the aspirations of the people that you surround yourself with. That's very important, and it comes back to something Rich and I talk about a lot in the TSBOC group, and that is the apprenticeship model of coaching. Coaching is, in its heart, is an apprenticeship model. It's so really, if you're a tradesman or woman and you're working with material, you can only do so much depending on the quality of material that you have. And that's very much linked, I would say, to the the quality of the aspirations of the people you surround yourself with, which is peer group, which then feeds through. If you're just open and service based in all of your interactions, then certainly in terms of the leads you create, it's very much linked to your peer group, because you spend most time around those people by definition. So that's been a big shift for myself, my peer group, and how that's linked to creating good quality leads. I'm slightly different to Rich. I think Rich has created a lot of his leads through public speaking, and I did create a client recently. Ben Alsop is online. I'll give a shout out to Shape Your Destiny. I've spoken twice at two different Shape Your Destiny events, and the one in Manchester, the first night I spoke at, I did actually create a client at that event through sharing my story, my life story, and what I'd learned from that. So speaking is one thing, definitely. Also, I've run a lot of courses, so I've run a lot of mindfulness courses local to my home here near Cardiff. And people often think that you can't create a good coaching practice, locally, but that's not true. Actually, I created my initial practice pretty much, I would say 80-90% locally. Did very little work on Skype early on. Now it's probably about 50-50, I'd say. Rich is right in respect to coaching being it's a unity of two human beings. So if you can create, if you can put yourself out there and go into environments where there are people who are aspirational, you can deliver a high level impression of yourself if you're speaking, or better still, if you're actually speaking one-to-one with people. I'm not talking about these sort of cheesy networking events. I'll reiterate the example I just gave a second ago about the Rich Litfin intensive I went to at London. I created an apprentice at that event, and the reason that apprentice lives in Washington DC, but the reason that really came about is because we had the opportunity to have lunch together, and then had a 2.5 hour conversation after the event live together. So face-to-face live interaction with people is really, really valuable. I think, that's the main thing. Again, just look at opportunities. I went to a good quality yoga retreat, and I created a client at that retreat. And I also created a little bit of corporate work as well. So a woman there's a solicitor, and I went in, delivered Mindfulness Day to solicitors for the NHS in Cardiff. So there's opportunities everywhere for client creation. As a coach, you kind of, speaking personally, I'm never completely switched off. There is this boundary, of course, between making sure you've got permission for coaching. But the truth is that there's this, it's a sliding scale, and I think it's useful just to end this little part to talking about the difference between soft and hard coaching. If you just meet somebody at a social event and you say, okay, how are things going for you? Well, you got a business, okay, how's it going? That's just general questions, but in a way it's soft coaching. And I will often, if I find myself doing that, and then I will often just call it out and say, okay, I realize maybe I'm coaching you a little here and it's my profession. So I apologize for that. And then that often creates intrigue, which then comes back with, that's interesting. I said, well, I'm happy to set aside some time for you and have a conversation with you, but it's probably not appropriate now. A doctor wouldn't examine you at a party if you said you had a shoulder problem, would they? So that's important as well. It's just recognizing that soft coaching to kind of hard coaching, taking the hard coaching separate out of that initial meetup. So I'll stop there.
Couple of other thoughts. I just had just a question about what do we mean by apprentices? So we've got this expression apprentice. By that we mean it's someone that is studying intensively with us to learn how to create a coaching business. So it is more monetary focused. There is obviously coaching around becoming a better coach. There's what I call coaching supervision, which is them asking questions about, I've got this challenge with a client, what do you think I should do? But it's very much around creating extra coaching income. So that's that piece. I'm very aware of trying to give you all as much practical advice as possible. So when you are indulging immersed in a general conversation with someone, if you can start asking questions around maybe stuff they're working on, they really want to move towards, and they're going to be great, or maybe there's something challenges might come up. Peter's posting there about going to a network event, created 2 clients. Well done, mate. One asked a question to a business guy, when did you last put your prices up? And a limiting belief came up. And you're right, pricing numbers is often a great way to start with businesses. And they will have limiting beliefs around that. So often when I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm looking for either they have a desire to create possibility or potential. And my question for that will be something along the lines of, would you like some help with that? Or would it be useful to have a conversation about that? And if they say yes, then I'll invite them to initial conversation, coaching conversation with me. Equally, if they've got some challenges or problems that they're expressing, I will ask, would you like some help with that? Or would it be useful to have a conversation about that? That's how I'm creating that initial coaching conversation, is just something as simple as that, about just offering them the space to talk through either a positive outcome that they're working towards, or maybe a challenge or an obstacle that is presenting themselves. And just again, I've got another question through about apprentices. Let me be very clear about, because there are different use of different apprentices. So we're kind of talking about apprentices in a way that is, our apprentices actually pay us. They pay us a fee to work with us. So basically they're paying us for our knowledge and for our coaching and for our input along the journey. It's not a free apprenticeship like the traditional one where, blacksmith apprentice would work for nothing, often many years, up to 7 years. So our apprenticeships are actually people who pay us to work very, very intensively and get coached and mentored by us. So that's what we mean by apprenticeships. Nothing like the TV show rack. No. And hopefully I'll never have to fire anyone. Don't get me started on the Alan Sugar apprentice stuff. That could be a blooming webinar in itself. All right, cool. I think that's that. Yeah, so those questions. Do you want help? So would you like some help with that, or would it be useful to have a conversation about that? Very, very good opening questions to turn someone from a nice general conversation to them being someone that's that you're having a coaching conversation with. Exactly. Lord Sugar does indeed have a beard as well. You're absolutely right, Mr. Slay. Right, Chris, do you want to do number 5? It's your turn again, isn't it? Yeah.
I'll do number 5. I'll just add a quick couple of bits onto number 4. The reason why apprenticeships are often more intense, but they're also often higher values, because not only are you coaching the person, but you're also offering mentorship and supervision. So because they're a coach, they get to bring their client questions to the coaching session as well. And then the second thing I want to add is the difference between passive and active client creation. So passive client creation is often just putting yourself out there into the world, and people who connect with that will kind of filter through to you or reach out to you. Active client creation, which you find is you charge higher fees, and you take often less people at higher fees. Active client creation becomes more important. That's where you sit down and you choose who you want your next client to be. And I have done that. Somebody in my network who I just think that's a real cool person to spend some time with. They really interest me. I'm going to reach out to them and see what's going on for them in their life, see where they're at, see what their kind of moonshot is, see what's next for them, and see if I can serve them, just to help them along. And that active client creation, you can even record a video. I haven't done this yet, but you can even record a video for somebody and just call out why they inspire you, and just do it because you want to communicate that fact that they inspire you. But it'll often promote a conversation which will lead on to things. So active client creation is to keep in mind. Yeah, it's good. So number 5 is becoming a practitioner, not a student. Becoming a practitioner, not a student. So it's linked to the apprentice model I talked about a second ago. See it so often. Both Rich and myself have seen it. Both Rich and myself did it for a period, whereby it's safety. It's safety to hide behind the computer, to hide behind the YouTube videos, to hide behind constant reading, to hide behind seminars, become a seminar junkie. To work on rather than self-development, you work on shelf development, as Peter Thompson would say. My shelf behind me is pretty full of books. So, and you know what? That's kind of safe. It's kind of cool. You can talk a good talk, and you can impress. You can impress people. I was going to say impress clients, but no, that's not true, because people who are impressed generally don't become clients. They just go, "Oh, that's cool," and they walk away, because you're trying to implant something on them. You're not slowing down. You're not listening to what's going on for them. You're not asking questions about where they're at. You're trying to just ram down the external knowledge that you've read about. So the shift to becoming a practitioner can be edgy. It's like that apprentice that's learned their art to a degree. They've done the studentship. They've got the tools in the bag, but now really to sharpen those tools, to find out how they really respond, how they're really used, to hone them, you have to work with material, hence clients. And that's so important. Just your first client for no money, then your first paying clients, you become by definition then a professional coach, and then just gradually scaling up from that space. Yeah, I think that's the key thing there, Rich. And be a kind of practitioner, not a student. It's frustrating to be a student when you should be practicing.
I'm aware that I'm in danger of confusing people with this term apprenticeship, so let me be very clear about what it is. So there's one type of apprenticeship that a lot of people have reference to, which is you go and work with someone and actually provide your labour and services for free or very cheap, and in return, you being around that environment, you learn. Okay, that is an apprenticeship. It's not the apprenticeships that Chris and I do. What we do is people pay us to get coached and mentored by us. They don't give us any services or labour for our own businesses. They are getting knowledge and coaching so they can develop their own businesses. So that's what we're calling an apprentice. So they're two words, same word for two different meanings. Okay. So in essence, yes, you're paying for business mentoring. That's exactly right. Now, coaching out of any business that I've done, you got to be prepared to get messy. You got to be prepared to just do it, get involved, meet people, create connections, be a bit shit at that. Have initial conversations, be a bit shit at that. Get better at it by doing it. Make proposals, be a bit shit at that. Get better at doing it. Coach people, be a bit shit at that. Get better by coaching. And so it's really about getting active and about doing as much as possible. Do you know what the biggest problem that coaches have, or coaches starting out have, and I sometimes go there, and so does Chris, but we do it less now, is we try and overthink. We're trying to strategize and plan everything out in our heads before doing it. And it's much easier to get out there and do stuff and maybe not do it particularly well and think, oh, you may even lose clients by not doing it very well. But you know what? The really ones that you're really suited to will forgive an awful lot of things. And you know what? You might create your first client just going out there and kind of getting messy. What I do see a lot of is people beauty parading. So they think, you know what, if I've got a certain number of certificates or qualifications, or if I've read a certain number of books and I can show off and be more impressive as a coach than X, Y, or Z, then they're more likely to choose me. And in my experience, that doesn't work very well with coaching. I'm a member of a couple of quite prominent coaching groups, And goodness me, as soon as someone posts up there, I'm looking for a coach, it's like a frigging shark feeding frenzy. It's hilarious, actually. It's hilarious as well as being slightly embarrassing. It's like, oh look, I haven't got enough clients. Let me jump on this one. And I often will have a bit of fun and try and post the most weird response in that thread to try and stick out just for a laugh. You don't want to get in a beauty parade because no one does coaching like you do. So someone that's a perfect client for me may not be a perfect client for Chris. And likewise, someone that thinks I'm a great coach might think that Chris is a better coach. You know what? I don't know what level of delusion they're at, but that's fine. And vice versa, right? Touche, Mr. Joseph. Dr. Joseph, sorry. The biggest challenge that people have when they're not creating enough coaching clients is they think that it's their ability as a coach that's the problem. So they'll go away and learn more, do more study, do more programs. Excuse my French, it's basically mental masturbation. Okay? Don't do that. You're good enough as a coach. As Michael Neal says, even a lamppost makes a great coach. Okay? So you don't need to become a better coach. You will become a better coach by engaging with more clients. And that's the way to do it, is to get active in the game. Brag's cracking up here. Action creates motivation. You don't need to wait for the motivation to create action. Okay, there we go. I never thought I'd use the phrase mental masturbation on a Zoom webinar. Now I have. Fantastic. Right. Any more, Chris? Or should we got on the 6? I'm aware of time and our ability to yak away.
Let's go on to 6. Why don't you start with 6, Rich?
All right then, mate. Thanks, mate. I was aware that I didn't have much airtime, so appreciate you letting me have a go at this one.
It's all right.
Choose who you work with, Chris, as written down here. So when you start out with coaching, coach anyone and everyone. Find out who you like to coach, who you love to coach, who you hate coaching, who you get results with, who you get results with easily, who you don't get results with. Find out by coaching lots of different people, the sort of people that are likely to pay you fees and the sort of people that will be tire kickers and want stuff for free. There's nothing wrong with helping people that want stuff for free, just that you can't build a professional coaching practice around it. And that's been me being pretty blunt and harsh, okay? There are many ways to service people that want free information or maybe not in a position to pay. That's cool, okay? As you have more and more conversations, this might even before you've even been paid by someone yet, you're going to start to get more of a picture of who kind of your ideal client is for you. And it just happens to be in my case, and it seems to be with a lot of coaches, we kind of quite like coaching people that are similar to ourselves or have similar patterns. Not always the case. That's definitely true for me. I tend to coach people that are very big picture, very creative, are able to create things very easily, but also can sometimes get distracted because I worked on that myself. So, and I'm more in a mentoring coach space. So it kind of makes sense to me to mentor people in areas that I've had experience in. The right person will be begging you for coaching. The ideal 10 out of 10 client will be constantly asking you, can you just tell me how we can work together? That's really what you're aiming for. You're not always going to get that. You have to be careful sometimes because they might ask you too early, and they haven't had enough experience of you yet. And actually, something that might be a bit of a value disconnect or even a values disconnect down to that. But I can't emphasize enough. Chris said something earlier on about your clients, your peer group, and ultimately, do you know what? You're going to hang out with these people for a significant part of your week. So you're going to make damn sure the people you're working with are energized. In my case, I work with people that do tremendous amounts of work between our sessions. I don't need to drag them to a solution. They're dragging me towards their solution. I'm going, wow, this is moving fast. Fantastic. Let's get on the bus together. They're highly energized. They have considered obstacles or blocks before as they go along. And if not, they're very open and willing to consider different paths to overcome these obstacles and blocks. They naturally refer me to other clients because they think I'm amazing, and I think they're amazing too. And they become personal friends as well as clients in many ways. So as you're going through to raise the quality of client you're working with is very, very important. It also enables you to raise fees because you're working with people that are generally more successful from a financial perspective. And equally, I in the past have had a number of clients who didn't have massive amounts of money, but they were amazing clients, and I really got something out of that interaction. So don't rule out that possibility either. You know, a high quality client isn't always in a current great financial position, but often they can get that way through your help. So I've done that before, you know, reduced rate coaching. I don't do it very often anymore. Yeah, that's kind of my bit, Chris, on that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's good stuff, Rich. So in terms of choosing who you work with, I think an important step for me was creating a client avatar. So actually writing down a few descriptors for the clients that I enjoyed working with already, and therefore wanted to work with more in the future. So for me, it's somebody who's committed to their own personal growth, and I mean committed. So I don't drag carts. I spent a lot of time early on in my coaching career dragging carts, and it's tiring. So somebody who's committed, somebody who's fun and engaging to be around. As Rich said, you know, often I will coach, 15, 20 hours in a week. And there's quite a lot of time to, you know, as I said, they appear, so it needs to be fun and engaging. There need to be an energy click there. And the third one is that they're ready and able to invest in themselves. So that's obviously not just that's financial, but also time as well. I would say initial conversation with a client, there's probably three outcomes. One is that, or from a potential client, I should say, the first outcome is this just isn't a click, so it goes no further. The second one is that there is a click. You can see that you would love to work with a person but they're not in the right space to enter into a coaching contract with you. Maybe the time isn't there for them, or the finances isn't there for them. And if that is the case, then I would always love to get another conversation in the diary, maybe in a month, 2 months, maybe in 3 months from then, to check in where they're at. It can be quite powerful coaching, actually, for somebody who wants to work with you, to invite them into the space whereby they know they need to create the money to work with you. Chandler in Prosperous Coach, coming back to that, he used that with Rich Litvin when he said, I want you to become the coach that creates the money first. So that's powerful coaching in and of itself. And the third outcome from an initial conversation is that, green light. They want to work with you, and it's time to get a contract sorted and to move forwards. So client avatar is the key thing that I would add there, Rich. And also, I think, because this is about how we've stepped into the six-figure realm, I would say now, it's going to sound a little egotistic, but I'll say it anyway. A potential client has to earn the right for a proposal from me. Invest in a significant amount of time in them, and that's time I'm never going to get back in my life. Money's irrelevant. So for me to invest that time in a conversation with them, or conversations with them, in a coaching contract with them, then they've just got to show me that they're serious, basically. Yeah. So it's taken a while to get that space of ownership, but that's it's an important identity to get to.
Yeah. I think also just be considering, if someone's going to pay your coaching fees, would you pay that coaching fee? You can get some insight in terms of, if someone's earning 30 grand or 50 grand or 100 grand or 200 grand, you're going to have some idea of, what sort of money might they commit to coaching. Although sometimes you'll be surprised, some people that are earning over 100 grand are very unwilling to invest anything in coaching. And equally, you get someone that's on 30 grand is going to scrape together everything that they've got and throw it all at this because they know it's the right way. But it's definitely, as you evolve up the coaching ladder and you're prepared to pay more for coaching, it also makes it easier for you to propose more for your own coaching. And so a couple of questions I thought. So some great comments down the side there. Really, I'm loving the interaction here. It is about evolution of niche. You're absolutely right. You know, I really wouldn't recommend choosing one specifically unless it's blindingly obvious. It's about, you know, naturally you'll move towards particular niches. I didn't know that a few years ago I would be mentoring coaches. It just, I guess a few things fell into place. I created my own 6-figure business, mentored Chris, who got there, we worked out the recipe, and we're like, yeah, I'm comfortable doing that now. And I give guarantees around it as well because I feel that comfortable. Fab, you asked. Yes, mate, go on.
Yeah, on niche as well. It's, for me, it's more about how I coach is my niche rather than what I coach. So my mindfulness background, I often meditate with clients, really slow things down. So that's probably my niche, because I do personal coaching and business coaching. So I don't niche so much in what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, and a great point there, Peter. Talking about, you know, often with business, you start off competing on price because you don't have reputation. Then you move on to competing on quality and reputation. Coaching is absolutely that. I totally agree. And in fact, actually, you know, the quicker you move away from trying to compete on price, the better, because it's just not a winnable game. Raghav, if you're asking about transitioning from one peer group to another, I think, you know, from my perspective, it is that, you know what, don't be the smartest kid in the room at everything. But equally, do you know what? There are a number of people out there, you know, mentors and coaches that, you know, apparently are successful, and most of them are open to having conversations. I mean, particularly if you come out and show genuine interest in what they've done. I think from my own experience of being, you know, a sort of speaker around the world, you get kind of two different types of people. One of which is people coming up to you and kind of they're expecting something from you, like you owe them something. And quite frankly, it gets a bit tiring. You know, that kind of takes what can I take from you mentality. I love working with people that either, you know, they give me something very specific feedback on what they loved about what they did. They might offer value. I think that's one of the key things to someone that you would like to have in your peer group. If you offer value to that person, one of the reasons that Raghav and I have had many conversations over the couple of years we know each other is that, you know, he's always been looking at different things and offering value in his take on things, and equally, you know, I'm very happy to exchange things back. And I think if you look at your own skill sets and your own abilities, you know, there's always something that you do really, really well, and that's always going to be intriguing to someone that apparently has become successful. Because, do you know what, I'm always interested in different insights and values and skills. And I think about, you know, one of my group clients I've known for years has become an expert in LinkedIn. I love listening to her talking about LinkedIn and what she knows, and I'm very happy to give her coaching back and for her to become kind of part of my peer group. And it's that commitment to transition, because sometimes, you know, I know back in 2005-06 when I joined the Robbins environment, I'd become the smartest kid in the room in all my peer group. And, you know, that actually started to drag me down emotionally, financially, and everything. And it's just that commitment to who do I know who's an amazing person, quality people, quality time, move towards purposeful conversations and away from casual chats. Value your time. Really, really, I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not indulge in casual chats, because there is a cost to that. So, yeah, with that, should we move on to number 7, Chris?
Yeah, let's do number 7. Something you talked about then was a phrase is zone of genius. Every person on the call will have their own specific zone of genius, something in which they operate in a state of flow. And it's important to slow down and find out what it is for yourself, because if you coach from that space, then you offer real value to that person in front. Number 7, so the final one, is ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. It's the simplest one of all, and yet so many people don't do this, and I didn't for many years, but I do largely, not always, but largely now. And it is, you know, there's a saying, if you want anything, you can get anything in life if you ask some people. And I found that that's quite an overestimate, actually. You don't need 1,000 people. It's often a lot less than that. And especially if you're strategic in how you ask and who you ask as well, it can be significantly less than that. So it's far more of a laser approach rather than a scattergun approach. So if you want to be on somebody's podcast, then you ask them. If you want to speak at somebody's event, then you ask them. If you want to speak with a person, so you bit of active client creation, then you reach out to them and you ask them. So if you want to be paid a fee for your coaching that you think is worthy and represents what you can contribute to that person's life or their business, then you ask them. The reason why Rich and I are six-figure coaches is because we've asked for the money. So maybe I've cracked Raghav up again. I know it's blatantly obvious, but often it's missed. Leads to more coaching, and if you want to be paid six figures, then you ask for 10 clients at 10,000 a year. Is a very simple model for a six-figure coaching business, and it's very doable, very doable. So I'll shut up there.
I'm just going to make it clear that Chris is a very happily married man. He doesn't use this tactic in nightclubs anymore. That maybe will be. Is that how you created your current relationship? Who do you know? How do you ask? Right, here we go. I'm just going to pick up on a few comments and then we'll move on to my thoughts on that. Yeah, Rag, it's very important what you picked up there about, in the coaching world, the PD world, it's often what you find is a lot of people that are kind of spinning in that world, and it's just like they're looking for all their solutions just within that world. And what I find is the most successful people find a way of kind of bolting the personal development stuff onto something tangible and concrete. And so those are people that I want to work with, are those that understand PD and mindset, but they're using it in conjunction with something. So that's an interesting point. I love the fact, Sam, that what Chris said about you being the niche, you being your own niche and Chris being his own niche is really important. It's like, I'm very aware that while I coach people in certain areas, I'm very aware that some people love how I approach things and other people probably would be scared away a little bit. And that's fine as well. Peter, you've been talking about marketing mix, product and service, price, place, promotion, product, environment, and people. I love that. So what's the whole flow for me? The whole flow will be I often get people asking me, that's great, but again, I also want to qualify them. I want to understand more about where they're at, but I will initially ask people to probably about a half-hour conversation. Unless I know them very, very well, then I'll have a longer conversation. In that half-hour conversation, I'm looking to establish a gap. Where they want to go, where are they at, what's the value of the gap, what have they done to try and close it, what's worked, what hasn't worked, would they like some help with closing the gap? And I will do whatever I can in that time period to help them close the gap. If it's a great conversation, if it's an amazing conversation, I might even make a proposal to them there and then. It's very unusual. If it's gone very well, I'll invite them to a longer conversation, typically in my case, 1 to 2 hours. If it is not going well, I will refer them out to various books, videos, etc., resources, that they can at least get some value from there. In a longer conversation, what I call a creation conversation, I'm going to be all about creating possibility and potential. One of the mistakes I made early on was I put my Robbins intervention hat on, asked them what their problems were, fixed them all for them, put a nice bow on it, and I said, can I talk to you about my coaching? And of course, they were very happy with me and said, thank you very much. I would tell them about my coaching, and I said, would you be interested in that? And funnily enough, they would say, Rich, if another problem comes up, I would definitely come to you for coaching, but right now I feel pretty good. So my answer is no in this case. And what I realized all I had to do was help people to create potential and possibility. If we had been working on a problem, we had resolved it, what I would then ask is, what's possible from you in this space? Or what potential have we now created? Get them to talk about that for a period of time and then say, so can I talk to you now about how I work with clients on a long-term basis to create even more possibility potential and then make that real through implementation? And I've never had anyone say no. Yeah, exactly right, Rag. A powerful, compelling vision of what is possible. That's really what, that's what I believe coaching is about. Coaching is not for me about fixing problems and obstacles. It's just stuff that shows up on the way to creating this amazing vision. From that space, I'm then going to move into breaking down what my coaching looks like. I kind of use a Rich Litvin type structure, which is I will explain that my coaching involves creating a clear vision and purpose behind that vision. About a strategy to get there. That's something I'm particularly strong at. I will look at what mindset they need to get there and also what mindset might get in the way. What skill set might they need to get there? And I'm also going to look at creating enough time and energy. Ultimately, the game I play with clients is creating quality time for themselves to choose as they wish to use and having energy to do it. So I'll cover, and I'm going to get them to write down what those 5 areas are, because if they make a decision around coaching, either yes or no, I want them to have some tangible reason why they said yes or no, or a tangible reason to explain it to someone else. I know I'm going fast, but I'm also aware that I'm going to respect time as well. The next thing I'll talk about is the fact they have genuine choice. I call it the tale of two paths. For those that want it, I'll give you a LinkedIn link for an article I wrote on that. It's explained that they can do this by themselves, and there's a time element to that path, doing it by yourself. It's a windy path, and sometimes there are dead ends. So sometimes it's the right path, sometimes it's not. The second path is using a coach or mentor. It's a straighter path. It should be more direct. Make sure you go on a path with someone that you enjoy working with and has good values and also gets good results. And even on that second path, there is a time investment, there is an energy investment, and there's a money investment, and it's got to be worth it from a money perspective. The outcome that you want, is it worth the money you're going to pay? Okay. Final bit on accountability. I don't feel I need to keep people accountable. I'm not an accountability coach. I expect my clients to do the work that they said they were going to do in between sessions. I expect them to respect timing around sessions. I recently had a guy that I offered 2 free sessions to. I never used the word free, but that's what they were. Didn't show up to either, so that's his chance gone. And then finally, I will say, and the final bit is, I'm going to talk about what your investment would be with me. These are different options that I do, and at the end of me explaining what the different options are, you're either going to come back with a yes or a no. If it's a yes, I'm going to explain exactly how that works and the paperwork that's involved. I'll also push back on against the yes to make sure it's a clear yes. I'll question, is it really a yes? If they say no, I'll say ask for reasons why it was a no so I can learn from that. And sometimes they might be in maybe space, which is a blend of yes or no. And so I will either coach them there and then to help them to get the right outcome for them, or we'll arrange another session within the next 7 days to clarify that maybe and arrive at a clear yes or no. What you can hear from me talking about this is I have a lot of certainty about my proposal process because I created one that worked for me, and I can know it inside out, back to front. I can explain it in 2 minutes like I've just done there, or I can do it in 15 or 20 minutes like I would do with a client. But the key is that the client is very clear about that I know my shit around coaching and I know what the coaching process looks like with me. So hopefully that was useful. That's like the fastest I've ever explained my coaching proposal thing too. And that's something I normally only explain to my mentees or one-to-one people, clients. So hopefully that was useful. And breathe, Chris. Okay, Rag, have you posed a question about what's your view on handling objections, or are you very hands-off in the consultation? And then you followed that with, I've been told by sales mentors handle objections, but I like to be as hands-off. And if someone isn't, hell yes, I don't want them to push them into anything. I've been told to kick people's ass when they bring up objections. I think it's all BS. I tend to agree with you on that, Rag. So my approach would be, I like to kind of address objections when I'm talking through proactively, by when I'm talking through the creation process, which is, addressing with, it may show up for you that it's not worth it, and you have to decide what is your outcome really, really worth, and what you're prepared to invest in the possibility of creating that outcome. And also often the other objection is around time. So often we'll put both of those on the table. But the most important thing for me is I want to put no on the table. I want them to, I learned this from a book by Jim Camp, which is you put no on the table and you say to the client, at the end of this conversation, it's perfectly acceptable for you to say no to my coaching because it isn't right for you. And so if objections do come up, if I don't believe that they are, if it's 100% it's not for them. That's great. I'll respect that. And I'll say, great. I just love to know the reasons why. And let's shake hands and agree to maybe speak another time. Because there might be a no, not yet. It might be I'm not ready yet. And I'll say, okay, so when do you think you'll be ready to have a different conversation? And we'll put it in the diary. But sometimes objections may come up, and I might coach them around the objections. And I'm trying to get them around it. I'm going to coach them in the sphere of that objection and say, I'm wondering why you've asked that question. I'm wondering what's showing up for you, and would it be useful to talk about that? I'm not sure I can create the money. I'll say, well, what is your insecurity around that? And actually, from that space, I'm genuinely coaching them. I'm not trying to manipulate them to an outcome. And sometimes I might say, look, maybe you want some time to think about that, and let's speak sometime the next week. What's showing up for me when you say that is this, and this, but that may or may not be true. But it's something that's actually getting in the way of you getting to a clear yes or no. So actually, it might be a lot of value between the two of us in terms of coaching through this particular topic. So I'm totally with you. I'm not in the business of kicking ass. I never ever push anyone to a sale. If someone needs to walk away, let them walk away. They will say great things about you. They will refer people to you. They may well come back at a client as a later date. I think it's generally about serving them. And sometimes what objections come up, actually serving them is to coach them through it. And maybe there's a pattern or a limiting belief that's showing up that will benefit, rather than just running away and going, okay, it's a no. Sometimes actually holding your ground as a coach and helping them through that limiting belief is useful. So I think that's pretty much what you put in there, Sam. Sometimes it's just worth just questioning an objection, saying what's really showing up for you in that area. But I will never ever push anyone into a sale. 100%. Chris, shall I talk about what's next?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple of things that Chris and I are doing, and I'm going to talk about stuff that's going on in the future, and it's not happening right now. So I want to be clear about that. So Chris and I are writing a book called The Secret Business of Coaching. There's going to be a lot of this stuff in there and everything else that we conjured up over the last few years. So that's in progress. It will be released sometime next year. It is not our top priority right now. And nor is the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is we're aware that there are people currently that are relatively early stages of coaching. They probably would benefit from being able to be a bit more self-led through modules. We are going to create an online program. It is not there yet. It's probably going to be a few months away, if I'm honest. It's going to be a 3-month program. It's going to be self-led, a module a week for 12 weeks. You're going to get a monthly mastermind call every month. You would probably get a live day, and you get some one-to-one coaching from our coaches. So that is not there yet. It's coming. What we're currently doing is this. Since February this year, we've been running a group called the Secret Business of Coaching Mastermind Group. And what we've done there with our current coaches, and I've got a few of them on the call tonight. You can give us a wave if you want. Those that run it. There's Manoj and Joe waving away. What we've currently done is we've got a Facebook group, private Facebook group, whereby those coaches can interact with us and the rest of the community, share their wins, share their challenges, look for insights. Chris and I can chuck content, videos, thoughts in there. We have a Focus Monday, what we're going to focus on. We have a Question Wednesday where people can ask questions. And we have a Celebration Friday where we celebrate what we've achieved and also what we've learned. We have had monthly mastermind calls that have often gone on for considerable lengths of time. We've got better at it where we focus on topics and we talk through as a group different topics. We've had, we're going to have four live days in the year where we get together, share more content, give the mastermind members some deep coaching experience, and also just get on with creating the business of coaching. What we haven't done this year is one-to-one, and we're changing that. So basically, as of February next year, we are launching TSBOC2. It is a group that is only for coaches that currently have paid clients, because it takes a lot of time and effort to get someone to the point of having that first paid client. And that's what our online program, sort of, I guess, coached online program will be for, is getting people to that level and beyond. TSBOC2 is not about that. It's about people that have at least one paying client. We will again have a new private Facebook group. It's going to be a 6-month program. shorter program, more punchy. In that Facebook group, you can interact with me and Chris. You can interact with the other members, of which there will be 10. We've currently got 6 people that have said yes. We expect them all to make that a hell yes, which means they paid. So we've got 4 places left. And the structure is basically 6 months. Every month we have an online mastermind session with the group. I would imagine that will typically going to last about 2 hours, where we talk through topics and help people to get insights by talking through topics as a group. We will have every 3 months, so twice in the 6 months, we will have 2 live days this time. The first day will be giving our mastermind members an experience of deep coaching. They will coach each other. They will work on their businesses together. We will give extra content. The second day will be particularly around implementation. So we'll be spending a day together as a group to actually work on our coaching business and get stuff done. Okay. And then the final bit that we've added in is we will be offering, between me and Chris, 6 one-to-one coaching sessions. So Chris and I would split that, probably 3 each. So you can actually get individual attention on your coaching business. So this is clearly not for everyone. It is primarily by invitation only, but if someone is listening to this video live or I've listened to this as a recording and you're interested, get in contact with me or Chris via Facebook probably, or you can email us at this following address, which I'm going to put into the chat, which is thesecretbusinessofcoaching@gmail.com. So we only need 4, which is why I'm not going for the heavy sale. There's only 4 places left. Go to the back of the room, and here are 27 bonuses that you wouldn't have got if you didn't sign up today. There we go. Rag, yes, it's back there, Rag. It's a little table. That's how we sell. It's like we have to sell how we preach. And so, you know, if this is right for you, then get in contact. There are a number of people on this call that are going to be in TSBOC2 already. If it's for you, let us know. We'll have a conversation with you. I deliberately haven't told you what the number is. I'm not going to tell you how much your investment would be until we have a conversation, because we can't offer this out at a price and then someone says, yeah, I want that, here's the money, and they're not a good fit. So if it's for you, or if you know someone that might be for them, please let them know as well. We'd appreciate that. And that's TSBOC2, with a mind that there's other stuff coming as well. You know, I think it's important that Chris and I stay true to what we feel very comfortable with, and then we will develop the online stuff and we'll develop the book as we go along. And then if you are really feeling excited about creating a coaching business, then you can work one-to-one. I think probably on this call, we probably should say that would be a joint proposal from me and Chris. Otherwise, we'll start fighting over clients, which would be quite fun. I'm slightly bigger than him, but I'm not as heavy as I used to be. So, and he's also younger than me, so I don't know. Anyway, that's always a possibility as well. I think from my perspective, really enjoy running these 3 webinars. We'll definitely run more in the future. Looking forward to working with some of you in TSBOC2 and in other formats. Yeah. Let's create some amazing coaches with amazing coaching businesses doing things the right way, rather than all this BS you see out there on Facebook ads and all this other crap. Doesn't need to be done that way. And there we go. Over to you, CJ.
Yeah, thanks, Rich, for summing that up so nicely, succinctly. Yeah, and also thank you for the comments that are coming through as well. Thank you, Rav. You're very welcome, mate. Yeah. Nice to see you on here, and I'm glad that you got value from it. Thank you, Joe. So yeah, there's nothing further to add. We're over time, so I won't use any more of that time. I want to get to bed as well. So yeah, good to see you.
I'll tell you what, Chris, if you didn't speak so much, we'd have finished on time, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
As you can see, we have a lot of fun as well. So
Rich said to me the other day, he said, Chris, I think you're the most expensive coach in the UK. And I said, well, you know, my price per space is very reasonable.
Not a man of many words, Chris, but when they are, they're definitely worth listening to. All right, folks. Look, we're going to be posting these out as as replays and so on and so forth. So feel free to digest at your leisure. Any questions, feel free to get in contact with us. You don't have to be working with us to ask for our advice and input. We're more than happy to provide insights. So thanks very much, and we'll see some of you very, very soon, and some of you over the next few months and years, and look forward to hearing stories of your success as well.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.